This is big, guys. Last week, there was a bit of news which you may have missed after being overwhelmed by the Smash Brothers news, but there was also a bit of Pokemon-related news for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Edition. According to Cerebi, which is where I found this information that I'll probably put on screen right now, Mega Evolutions are returning in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Edition. They showed Mega Charizard X and Y, they showed Mega Venusaur, so Megas are definitely coming back for Let's Go, but apparently there's speculation among the Pokemon community that there will be more Mega Evolutions added. I don't know where any of this originated. I just found out through a tweet, which my buddy Scoot notified me of. The tweet was from Pokemon, aka John. Yeah, he does Wi-Fi battles, a lot of Draft League content too. But this tweet, he said, all this potential Mega Pokemon talk has me way too excited. I need Mega Machamp so badly. Well, John, check out my last video because I got the perfect Mega Machamp for you. But I don't know if, all this new potential Mega Pokemon talk, if there's speculation outside of this that there's actually going to be, if there's leaks or something that I don't know about, but it seems like a lot of people are talking about Megas. And I don't know if it's just a coincidence or if there's actually something bigger going on here. And I have half a mind to believe the latter, which is why I'm coming on camera to show my excitement about this. If they actually come out with new Megas, I don't even know what I'll do. I am so ready if they actually do though. But today, here and now, let's get on to the video, shall we? I'm sure you can see by the title already, but in case you don't know, today's episode is going to be representing Kanto, the one and only Lapras. But yes, today's episode is going to be about Lapras. Any of you familiar with my PBF Season 3 run will know how iconic this bad boy is to me. I don't really play lower tiers, and I've only used Lapras in draft format that PBF Season 3, and I believe one other time. And while it has done, relatively well, I just feel like Lapras could be much better, and I feel like a Mega would definitely give Lapras what it needs. Let's start by looking at regular Lapras's base stats, beginning with speed and working our way up. So speed, we got 60, which is pretty bad. It is able to alleviate this a little with Dragon Dance, but definitely nothing to write home about. 95 special defense, which is pretty good. Decent base 85 special attack, could definitely be better though. 80 defense, again nothing to really write home about. Passable, but nothing really good. 85 attack, again nothing to write home about, but it can be boosted by Dragon Dance. But then we get to the big one, which is 130 HP. Now when I say the big one, I mean that in two ways. One, obviously it's his biggest stat. Two, this is a big point because with Megas, when they get stat buffs, they add 100 additional base stats, but nothing ever gets added to HP. But with Lapras, it already has a massive HP stat, so it won't mind not being able to have its HP stat boosted. Comparatively, if something like Toxapex, for example, were to get a Mega, it already has insane levels of defense and special defense and pretty minimal HP. So boosting its defense stats even more wouldn't really help it much in the long run, as opposed to if it were to gain HP, that would help it way more. You know what I'm trying to say? That Lapras gets the best of both worlds in this case, which I'm pretty excited about because Lapras definitely deserves it. As it stands, Lapras has 3 pretty decent abilities in Water Absorb, Shell Armor, and Hydration. I thought about maybe keeping one of these, most likely Water Absorb, because it's probably the most reliable and consistent. But ultimately I decided it would probably be better to give it a new ability. So the first thing that came to mind when making a new Ice-type Mega was the ability Slush Rush and or Glaciate. Glaciate isn't really necessary because Lapras already has access to great Ice-type moves in Ice Beam, Blizzard, Freeze Dry, etc. But its physical Ice-type move pool is pretty lacking. I think its only move it gets is Ice Shard. So for a physical attacking Mega Lapras with Dragon Dance, I figured maybe it could take advantage of a better move pool, having access to things like Body Slam or Return. But I feel like that's a pretty limiting gimmick, and I'm not the biggest fan of it on Mega Lapras. Not to mention the argument about Mega Glalie. As for Slush Rush, I could only see this ability working if you just dropped 50 points into Lapras' special attack and 50 points into its attack maybe, which wouldn't really be too bad considering it already has, great defenses. But if we were to do that, it would have Mega Abomasnow level offenses, relatively similar defenses, but way better speed, especially in the Hail. But speaking of Hail, if this were to happen, then you'd basically have to choose if you'd want Mega Abomasnow to set up the Hail, or Mega Lapras as your Hail sweeper. Like, imagine the core right now of Mega Abomasnow plus Alolan Sandslash. You could theoretically replace that with Alolan Ninetales and Mega Lapras, if this were the case. And I just don't really like that. I'm sure some people would like this more than something like Mega Abomasnow plus Alolan Sandslash, but I just feel much better about that core than something like Mega Lapras plus Aurorus or Alolan Ninetales. So both of these abilities definitely do have their merits. I just wasn't the biggest fan of them, so I went on to new ideas, and I basically came up with 3 more ideas for abilities to give Mega Lapras, 1 offensive and 2 defensive. The offensive ability is just straight up adaptability. I could definitely see this working on Mega Lapras because it could certainly appreciate being able to boost its water and ice type stab, especially considering Lapras' lackluster offenses. Even if you were to boost its offensive stats, it still wouldn't be anything spectacular. So a boosting ability would certainly help it, I feel. And for all 3 of these abilities, I pretty much gave it the same 100 additional base stats, and that would be 30 additional to attack and special attack, while 20 to defense and 20 to speed. This puts its offenses at a passable 115, while boosting its defense to 100 and speed to 80, which gives Lapras a very nice overall well-rounded appeal, which I feel is pretty fitting on a Pokemon like Lapras that didn't really excel at anything to begin with, other than HP of course. Anyway, back to adaptability. This came to mind because Lapras is of course the transport Pokemon, so it's always traveling. So I figure Lapras is probably able to adapt to its environment pretty well, so adaptability came to mind. Hey! As for how it'd play out competitively, I think we just have to take a look at Crawdaunt to see how effective adaptability on a water type can be. The thing about Crawdaunt though is that without 120 attack stat, it would still be stronger than Mega Lapras, physically anyway. Especially Lapras would have it beat by a considerable margin. Mega Lapras would obviously be way bulkier, and significantly faster as well. The only thing is that it's just not quite as physically strong as Crawdaunt, so I feel like a lot of times Crawdaunt would just outshine Mega Lapras, not to mention it has knockoff, which is... I'm not going to get into that. The point I'm trying to get to is that it creates a comparison between an already existing mon, similarly to how Slush Rush did with Alolan Sandslash. And I just don't really like that for Mega Lapras. I think I would prefer it to have its own thing. I do feel like adaptability is fitting and definitely viable. However, I think I would just prefer something else for it so it wouldn't be as comparable to something that already exists. So the second ability I thought to give it, a defensive one, is actually a new ability I came up with. It's basically an ice type magic guard. I don't really have a name for it. The best I could come up with was Ice Cloak, because Snow Cloak already exists. I didn't know like what else to call it. Maybe like Protective Mist or something. Anyway, the name isn't important. You could even just call it straight up Magic Guard. Doesn't really matter. The important thing here would be its effectiveness in battle, which would definitely be significant. Being unaffected by the likes of Stealth Rock, being unable to be toxic, no Leech Seed, no residual from Magma Storm. There's definitely a lot to be considered with this ability. Another one both fitting and competitively viable. This was actually my initial choice for the final ability I would go with, until one more idea came to mind. and that is Lightning Rod. This of course would give Lapras an immunity to one of its weaknesses, which is a pretty common spammable attack type. Not only that, but this would give Lapras the ability to boost its special attack for the first time. It already has Dragon Dance, so it can boost its physical attack. This gives it an option to boost its special attack, although not nearly as reliable as Dragon Dance, but at least it's something. As for how or why Lapras should get an ability like this, just look at Lapras's head. Right there, it's got that horn. That becomes a Lightning Rod. There you go. So like I said, all three of these abilities are fitting in my opinion, and all are viable in my opinion. However, in my opinion, I feel like this would be the one I would go with, just because it has that nice level of defensive boosting while also giving it the potential to boost offensively as well. As for sets I could see this thing running, it would definitely have plenty of options. The most effective one, in my opinion, would probably be Dragon Dance. Probably Waterfall and Ice Shard as your two main stabs. Then maybe Freeze Dry tacked on in case you get a Lightning Rod boost. Curse would also be another viable setup option. Maybe like Curse, Rest, 2 attacks with max HP, max special defense. I could also see a full support set working with maybe Toxic, Hail, Rest, Perish Song, Mist, or even Sing, Body Slam too. Lapras throwing around all the statuses, except Burn because it doesn't get Scald top kick. Speaking of not having Scald, you could also have a fully specially offensive set with maybe Surf or Hydro Pump, Blizzard or Ice Beam. Probably want Freeze Dry there always. It also gets some weird coverage options like Thunderbolt and Psychic. So yeah, Lapras definitely has options, and I feel like this ability, while maybe some of the others were better, I just feel like it's the most fitting. So that's what I'm going with for my final build for Mega Lapras. If you agree or disagree, be sure to let me know in the comments, and let me know how you're feeling about Mega in general. And let me know how you feel about these rumors that maybe we are getting new Megas. The thought of that is just so exciting to me. I know you probably can't tell because I have a pretty monotonal voice. Speaking of that, if you're new to the channel, hi, I'm Andy. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you would like to see more of this, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more. But until then, thank you guys for watching this video, and have a good day.